Can you see? This doesn't look like an egg at all. It's a new creation. And that's what Easter is, a new creation. It's Easter. Easter. And around the world, people are talking about the proof of the resurrection, the truth of the resurrection. And today, I want to do no less. I want you to understand the truth, the proof of the resurrection. For you see, you are the proof and the truth of the resurrection. For if you truly believe in Jesus Christ is risen today, then you lead different lives that show that belief. You lead lives that are free from fear. You lead lives where you stand up for the downtrodden, the poor, the marginalized. You lead lives where you gather in community to support the depressed. You lead lives that others can see are different. It doesn't matter to me if you believe in a physical or a spiritual resurrection. It doesn't matter to me if you believe in an apparition or a vision or some other kind of mystery. What matters to me is if your belief is lived out in your faith. Ironic, isn't it? That you are the proof of the resurrection. This year, our gospel reading came from the Gospel of Mark, the first gospel written, the oldest of our gospels. And Mark is sometimes understood or called the sarcastic gospel. We live in a very sarcastic world. But for me, I really wouldn't say the Gospel of Mark is sarcastic. I would say it's ironic. Let me explain. For me, sarcasm is always putting somebody down. Sarcasm is a joke that leaves someone wounded. You know, even when you say, duh, you might as well be saying, dummy. Even when the boss says to the laziest employee, well, don't work too hard, he's putting somebody down. Sarcasm is the weakness of the strong. Now, irony to me is the revelation of the truth that sometimes is hidden and sometimes is obvious right in front of us. Irony is the strength of the weak. So for me, John's gospel is ironic. It started just this last Sunday with the triumphal entry into Jerusalem, what we celebrated by waving palms, remembering that as Jesus entered humbly on a donkey at the other gate, the Romans were entering in, marching on steeds white and with full force. That Jesus came in a completely different way, and yet the people cried, "Hosanna to the King! Hosanna to the Son of David," not even realizing as they were living out that prophetic call how much truth was found or was to be found in their words. And then as the story goes on, we meet with Jesus as they question him, "Are you the King of the Jews? You say that I am." And even when Jesus was on the cross, hanging on the cross, someone says, "He saved others, let him save himself," not realizing that the truth is Jesus was saving the whole world. And the sign above his head said, "King of the Jews," knowing that he was the King of all. Sarcasm? No. Irony? Yes. It's even funny ha, funny, that women would be the ones to be the first witnesses. Women could not even legally be a witness of anything in that day and age. And yet the women were chosen to be the ones who would tell the story. Or in this case, not tell the story. If we live lives as resurrected people, then we live differently. Truthfully, I don't think the world has changed a whole lot since those days when Jesus walked on this earth. I think there is still a great deal of darkness and emptiness. There are still so many wounded. And yet, because of our belief, we can live anew. We can rise up. We can know resurrection. I don't know about you, but ISIS scares me to death. It is frightening what's going on in the world. And yet, by our faith, Jesus says, pray for your enemies and bless those who curse you. A couple of weeks ago, we saw what depression did to a young man so that he would end up ending the lives of hundreds of people. And in our Christian faith understanding, we know that when someone else can't hold up the light for themselves anymore, that we as a community gather around them and do that for them, lifting the light for the depressed and the lost. There are horrors. There is great brokenness in this world. Child slavery, pornography. There are horrible things happening that we are trying to avoid or trying to navigate our way through in some kind of faithful expression. And we, as followers of Jesus, know that coming to this table reminds us of who we are and who we belong to, as Isaac and Lila found out today, and can remember every time they come to this table where we encounter the risen Christ in, with, and under the bread and the wine. If we truly are people who believe in the resurrection, then we stand up for those who are being left behind, for those that are on the border with no one to love or care for them, for those who are widowed and orphaned and alone. We, as faithful people, become Jesus' hands and feet to the world. I'm not sure if you caught it, but as I was reading, the ending of this gospel is rather alarming, is it not? And the women went off and said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. This is what's called the shorter ending of the Gospel of Mark. It really should say the original ending of the Gospel of Mark. For the longer ending is something that was added later, not by the original writer of the Gospel of Mark, probably by someone who felt like, oh no, we need to tell a little bit more of the story. But I really do understand Mark ending in this way. And they went away and told no one, for they were seized by fear. And yet, 2,000 years later, here you sit, resurrected people. Ironic, isn't it? Jesus Christ is risen today. He is risen indeed. Hallelujah.